This is Daisy this morning. I think she had too much chocolate.
I'm too lovable!
But look
Oh,
at Venice Beach.
no, I just got too lovable! I'm too lovable! Look at me! Look at how lovable I am! That's it. You're all getting a tickle torture. Tickle, tickle, tickle.
Don't let her do that to you.
The tickle torture claw's coming.
It drives you crazy.
A tickle, tickle. Here I come. That's what you get for being too lovable. A tickle, 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 tickle. That's it, Gary. You're getting it.
Okay, tell us your life story.
Okay.
From when you
I
were
was-
17.
I was born
up.
Charlene Fodor to
What?
Susan Davis. At the time, she was Susan Fodor and Eugene Fodor. And my father was a child prodigy. And as most child prodigies are, and he had a very brilliant mind, he was also very in his own world. And when I was 2 years old, I became Lindsay Davis. My mom changed our last names back to her maiden name, and she changed my first name from Charlene to Lindsay. And I moved in with my grandfather. And in my family, the women do not work. The women and the men and the men are providers. And that was the older generation in my family. The younger generation in my family were all overachievers and everyone is supposed to work. But when, in the 80s, my mom was not expected to work. And she was more like a socialite. And my father was a concert violinist. He was on the Johnny Carson show and played on Paganini's $40 million violin and traveled the world. And my mother, when I was 2, moved in with my grandfather, who at the time was ambassador under President Ronald Reagan, and that was in Paraguay. So I met Reagan when I was 5, and then I met Bush Sr. shortly after when my grandfather got appointed to the ambassador of Panama. So I grew up in the U.S. Embassy. We used to have grand balls, and my brother, my sister, and I would dress up for black tie events all the time, and we had like performances, and world leaders come to the United States Embassy. I played with Noriega's children, the dictator of Panama. My grandfather visited him in jail when he went to jail. We used to have a butler. I could push 0 and a butler would answer the phone and I could order stuff to my room. So that was pretty cool. I grew up like with extreme privilege. Till I was 12, I had live-in nannies. And when I was little, went to a lot of schools. I went to a lot of different private schools. 8 schools in 7 years. And when I was in South and Central America, I got taken to school in a limousine. And when I came to the United States, we brought one of the nannies with us, and she was a teenager. My grandpa ended up getting her pregnant, so she had to get an abortion. And there was a lot of family secrets, so that the outside of our family looked really good, but the inside of our family was pretty broken. There was psychological abuse, and getting kicked out of the house was kind of a regular thing. Like my mom.
Okay, had a slight interruption. Go ahead.
Okay, so I barely graduated high school. I did not like school, and I didn't pay attention. But I was smart enough to not have to do anything and still get by. When I was an adult, I didn't really see the value of school or education, because in my home, you would just get a guy to pay for it. So that was what I did. I was a really successful sugar baby, and I would find some poor sucker, usually someone very submissive, and I swung dominant, and then we would like reenact our trauma together. And that happened because when I tried to talk about my trauma when I was little, I was called a liar and told like what happened to me didn't happen to me. In my home, when there would be verbal, physical, or psychological abuse, there would be no repair work done afterwards. So I had a disorganized attachment style by the time I was an adult. And although I didn't have any diagnosis, disorganized attachment style, that's a lot like borderline personality disorder, right? And someone with a disorganized attachment style is going to swing more self-righteous and be more angry and violent. Disorganized attachment style, that's like out of the 5 F's, that's like fight. And then flight would be dismissive and avoidant. And then anxious and preoccupied would be like fawning. Fawning is like when the animal lays on its back and shows its genitals. It's like, oh, let's take care of your needs. My needs don't matter. Let's not rock the boat or get anyone upset. That's fawning. And then the other 2 F's, fight, flight, fawn, freeze. And the other way we use and hurt each other is we sexually exploit one another. F-U-C-K. So I leaned very disorganized attachment style, and I reenacted my trauma until I was 36 years old, and I will forever remember my sobriety date. My kids were taken away from me. Let's see, I got arrested on July 21st. My kids were taken away from me the next day, 2018. And my sober date, 12 days later, is August 2nd, 2018. And you probably have heard me say that date on camera for the past 7 years, and that date will never change. Forever will my sobriety date be August 2nd, 2018. And that's because I was reborn on that day. And getting sober from drugs and alcohol was the start, because the truth is humanity is very addicted. We're addicted to sugar, to, many of us caffeine, to gluten, unhealthy relationships. We're addicted to market economy. There's things that we do because we're seeking that dopamine, and we're supposed to get dopamine from relationships and from taking care of life. But because we have exited the symbiotic flow of being one with nature, and now we are not symbiotic, we can never fully be happy and have those dopamine hits. So we become addicted. And part of my spiritual journey, like when my spiritual journey began in 2018, part of my spiritual journey was identifying everything that's an addiction. Identifying everything that I'm doing that is not in my nature. And it was not only drugs and alcohol, it was relationships. And the biggest addiction of all, you want to know what it is? Market economy. Doing something for a trinket. Doing something for money. I found out pretty much everything I did was for money. The men who I dated, for money. Every decision I made because of money. When I stopped making decisions because of some addiction, and money is an addiction, when I gave up the addictions, my entire life started to change. And what I realized over the course of the past 6-7 years of being sober and being on this journey, what I realized is that this world is not made for people like me. That people who want to speak radical truth and live in their nature and be without distractions and addictions, that people who want to walk the walk and talk the talk and live the light and be the light, this world does not fit. And realizing this has empowered me and emboldened me to a new level of bravery that I've never had before, because I never thought that a world more beautiful was possible. But I know that this world exists, and I've not only seen it in my heart, I have seen glimpses of it through recovery and being part of not merit-based systems, but need-based fellowships that are based off of how each other feels and a flow of meeting needs together, collaborating to meet needs. Gary, one of the reasons why you and I have become so close is because we need each other. And it's not in the way where like you would be fine without me and I would be fine without you. But we are interdependent and we are life enriching and we empower each other. And being in your life benefits me. And having you in my life benefits you, having me in your life. So that is what I realized the true gift is. And that there are two types of giving. There is natural giving in the way that I speak, when we speak radical truth, when there is transparency, honesty, and trust, not only in each other, but trust in the universe. And we must connect again so that we are together and not separate in order to operate in a more beautiful world that works for everyone, that is free from addictions. So that has basically been my life's work. And the way that I discovered that this was my journey is because when I got sober from drugs and alcohol, I realized I could not be a sugar baby anymore. And that was like really the decision I was making. It's like, I'm not going to be a sugar baby. And I don't have drugs and alcohol to numb out, so I just can't do it. So that was just kind of like, if I get sober, I know I cannot do this thing because I need to have one to have the other. And once I started to do that and try to live a different life where it's not coercive giving, because if I'm using you, even if, I think I'm not being used, if I use someone, I am also being used. So in order to get by, I still needed men's money. And I wasn't able to use them, but I needed their money. So what I didn't realize is I also needed them as part of my healing journey. So instead of selling my body, I was selling dominant massages. So guys would pay me to beat them up. And I like to dance on them. And I would tell them, I'm going to stomp on you, jump on you, kick you, slap you, rip your clothes, spit on you. Like, I would do something new and I'd be like, oh, you're going to get burned. I would just add it to the list of consent. And I would get consent, and boy, these dominant massages were going like hotcakes. So at about 14 months of beating men up, I realized that I do not want to beat them up, I want to heal them. So I went to massage school, I became a yoga instructor, I went to school to become a hypnotherapist, and I created Flow Strokes, which is a combination of hypnotherapy and yoga Thai body work. And I discovered, instead of BDSM, and beating people up or being a sugar baby or acting out trauma, that we could just do flow strokes, that we could heal through touch, but not exploitative touch, but touch that is about consent and about like reciprocity and honoring of each other. And furthermore, I discovered that we must never sell things like touch, that you're not supposed to sell intimacy and touch and massage, that these are things meant to be done. And like, how I offer you body work, Gary? You couldn't pay me to do body work. No one can pay me. I'm not for sale. But I offer you because you're in my tribe and because it serves me to watch you be elevated from my body work. It has a positive impact on me if you are healed. So that is why I want to take care of my tribe. You cannot pay me for this. You can't buy me. And once I realized that the jig's got to be up, that I'm not the only one that wants to be sober from market economy. But there's a lot of others who want to be sober too. So I created the 5 steps of global liberation, and they're modeled after the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. The first step is the same as the first 3 steps of AA. The first 3 steps is made a decision that our lives have become unmanageable and that basically the jig is up. Step 2 is become willing to believe in a power greater than ourselves. And step 3 is you turn your will and your life over. The first step out of the 5 of global liberation is the jig is up. Domination systems, which is market economy, married to government, that these systems hurt us. Step 2, we turn it over not only to God, but God, love, and nature. And we must include nature because it is God's voice outside of us. And we must include love because we must be resourced from now on. We must use the most amount of love and care and the least amount of force and control. Step 3 is find your meaning and purpose. I'm not a worker anymore. I have a meaning and purpose, and it is to awaken and unite humanity, to create a global liberation. But not everyone can be doing the global liberation thing. Like, we must all find our own meaning and purpose that is unique to us, and it is one or two things so we could become masters at it. Step number 4. Once we know what our meaning and purpose is, we are not here to do it alone. We must find our soul tribe. That is step 4, to gather. It is the gathering of the tribes. And step 5 is we close the circle, just like in the 12 steps. We carry the message so that there can be a global liberation, and this time we do use force. We use the most amount of love and care and the least amount of force and control, but we do carry the message, and it is a love crusades, because we cannot allow fear and domination to take over anymore. It is our time to act now. And I mean, I know I summarized it a lot. Like, I left out my 3 kids getting taken away and getting put into separate foster homes, and that was the biggest pain of my life. Since then, 2 little girls who I used to take care of have come back into my life, and I'm excited about that because the first thing I did was put them in touch with my boys. So, you know, I can feel my kids coming back to me sooner rather than later. And the more I get in the spotlight and the more my message gets out there, the more that I am sure that this is my path and that I am here for a reason. And although I've had incredible pain and my suffering is epic, being kept away from my children is the worst pain of my life, I know that it is all for a reason, and that I am here with incredible power to bring my purpose. And my purpose is to awaken and unite us.
Got it. Now get it.